excellence like Pico. Keep the strap real tight on us, we ain't got charges on the Rico. All my niggas really got it on them, wouldn't like to talk different people. Y'all already know the song is the bomb, but I already brought the info.
Alright, welcome! In it for the tech, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a special goddamn guest today. And yes, it's not a Sunday. But we have Daliso! And by the way, guys, right? This has been roughly a month of coordinating, okay? Had to wait for the man to come back from Maldives. Had to, you know what I mean? Had to kill off a few assassins. It's been a lot of work, but finally we're here. My G, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Welcome to In It for the Tech, right?
Thank you, Musa.
Been looking forward to have you, bro.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
So far, so good. So far, so good. I think it's nice that we're doing the recording today because tomorrow is obviously a public holiday.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, that's dope. That's dope. Nah, and again, today's episode, just to pay off bills, kindly brought to you by Virtual Nation Builders, aka Versas Gela, aka Schindler's Innovations, aka Schindler's Attorneys, right? So, as we start,
Yeah.
first question. What's with all the violence every Sunday evening? Violence on violence on violence. Explain, bro. Like, walk me through.
So the thing is that, firstly, the spaces started off like a joke, like everything I've actually done, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is that I just wanted a space that people would actually just chit chat and the likes. So what actually happened is that I'm not too sure if it's coincided at the same time. So there is a group called the Diversity Fight Club. That's where most of the violence already started, right? So that's where all of a sudden we have these chats on a Sunday. And it just started off as like a chilled vibe where we're talking as fellow Africans.
Sure.
Sometimes we actually have a few people coming from around the world. So one regular person is Misha. He's Russian, but he actually resides in the US.
Shout out Misha. Actually, you heard him in the last space. Yeah.
And quite a few other people, just in terms of different parts of the world as well. So you might actually have people from like the UK, some people from India, and it's all good vibes, right? But I think it's just a case of, it's just a time for us to just chill. Enjoy each other's company, just share about a variety of things. Sometimes I do shout out, do not say you share your seed phrase. I typically share that on a regular basis.
At least 5 times during a space I've heard this. I can attest to this, yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's primarily just been a case of people are always attacking the host. I've seen this. So that's why I typically even just change who comes up as a co-host. Typically it's, I think, predominantly women in the same group chat as well. And they talk a whole lot of smack, and I think that also just like sharpens the iron. So at least, for instance, when it comes to any sort of disses, even like Vintage Mozart, he resides in Zimbabwe as well.
Yes, he's doing some amazing work, Vintage, eh?
Yeah.
He's even on Atano. Hey.
So, it's just a space that, for instance, people always just get picked on, right? It's like, I studied at a private school, fine, you've got this particular accent. Coco as well, black woman, oh, you sound like a white woman, fine. Then obviously like Vintage, of course, he's posted up those selfies in the gym and you also like hammer him there in the space. So it's just a fun time. As another today, we're starting off the week on a Monday, and I think most times Mondays are like the Monday blues or whatever, so why not start it on a violent note? So at least when you actually get into Monday, you're already in the mood of knowing that you can
rejuvenated.
Exactly.
No, that's amazing, man. Awesome stuff. But just to pause it a bit and take it back, man. A lot of people, again, and I've said this to you, is that they hear the name Daliso, they see the tag on Twitter or whatever socials, but who are you, bro? Where are you from? Like, just start there, because a lot of people also assumed that you're from South Africa.
I was from South Africa is because I've stayed here.
Okay,
right?
cool.
I've got South African citizenship, but I was originally born in Zambia. Right.
Nice.
So
Lusaka?
No, it was a small town called Kaladushi.
Cool,
so it's actually near to the Copper Belt.
Okay.
So that's where most of my family actually resided. So my sister, my mother, and myself, funny enough, born in the same hospital. And then, funny enough, it was 1994, came to SA. Then been here ever since. So the mere fact is that if people ask, it's like, where are you from? It's like, yeah, I'm from South Africa. Where were you born? That's a different story. As in, my passport always tells me, it's like, yeah, you're born in Zambia. As an end of the day, that's it, even the ID and the likes. The other background story is because I'd actually moved quite a bit when growing up.
Sure.
I ended up actually not staying in like one particular city. I think, funny enough, the one city that I've stayed in the longest had actually been Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. So that was for like a stretch of like 6 years, but every other city had been like for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is.
So that was pretty much the longest.
Yeah, so it was primarily those stunts in South Africa. It's not like we had the luxury of actually just like traveling the world for like 3-4 years. It was literally just in South Africa itself.
Sure.
And then apart from that is that I've had a love of computers, right? So I think the love of computers actually even gets us to the point of why we're even talking, right? In it for the tech, that's literally been it. People think that maybe I might necessarily be telling a different story altogether, but that's why I think I end up being quite multifaceted. Just before even coming here, I was actually attending to like a networking issue. There was a new installation, so I needed to actually like now configure the firewall on the networking devices and the likes. And obviously, even when we're talking about computers, right?
Sure.
You've got the iMac. I use a MacBook. I necessarily build computers from scratch. Even being able to install different operating systems and the likes. So when it came to university, that's when I got into software engineering.
Oh, is that what you studied?
Yeah, that's what I studied. So it was a Bachelor of Science with honors in software engineering. So that was
multi-talented motherfucker, right? God damn.
Yeah. So that's primarily been it. And I'm not too sure if there's anything else you'll want to know about where I came from and where I am right now. But yeah, it's pretty much just been it. As in, I'm in it for the tech. Of course, there's money in tech, but it's primarily on the basis that if you've got a passion for something, typically the money always comes after.
And isn't it like the optimal prime to be in tech right now? You know what I mean? With this new sort of revolution of blockchain, cryptocurrencies, non-fungible tokens. And I mean, before you even get into those nitty-gritties, your experience, bro. I mean, fuck, I don't know how many people knew that you're into software engineering and stuff like that. And I know that you also run a few businesses, right?
So only one business.
Only one business. Okay. Only one.
Only one business.
Only one.
I necessarily help friends in other businesses, but it's only one business.
Okay, it's like consultancy and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So free consultancy, funny enough. So yeah.
Sure. And again, I'd like to know when your introduction into virtual augmented reality is, which then led to your hardware selling and stuff like that.
So that all started in like 2017. Started the company African Technopreneurs. The whole idea was actually to grow fellow technopreneurs in a sense that, for instance, I think my best philosophy was that you're better off starting a business before you actually try and get other people to start their own businesses, right? Because at least I walk the walk and I talk the talk, right? So that was 2017. Started off with web development. That was partly a part of one of our sister companies. They were doing web dev and the likes. I ran the numbers, they just didn't make any sense. Like any sort of business, right? You run the numbers, they don't make any sense for the long term.
Bottom line gotta make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was primarily it. Then by serendipity, I fell into 360 cameras, right? So this was late 2017, I think around October or so. There was this one guy, Life in 360. Now he's obviously renamed. He's Ben Claremont. And I learned quite a lot of like 360 techniques, tiny planets, and all this other stuff.
Sure.
There are a variety of people like Hugh Howe as well. So he's actually quite professional. And just got into it. And I was like, this is quite interesting, right? The initial business idea was to try and sell the service of 360 tours, right? So the thing is that what necessarily happened, and people might still be willing to take the idea. I think quite a lot of real estate agents are actually doing it these days, especially with COVID. Right?
Yes.
And I tried to do that. They were not buying the idea, right? And the argument that I heard was, we need to upsell when the people are there, one from another, yada, yada, yada. I even did a bit of research. Quite a lot of people. I've got my colleague here. He said that he didn't even look at his place before he moved in. So probably quite a lot of people actually just move into places without actually even checking themselves. So that was primarily it. And often I was like, okay, well, if these guys don't want to buy my services, I might as well sell the cameras. So that's primarily what happened. Starting 2018. 2018 got into the groove of selling the cameras. Then heard quite a bit about virtual reality. So up until that point, I think I never necessarily played around with virtual reality. And the very first virtual reality headset I got was the Oculus Go. And
this was 2017, 2018, right?
2017, 2018. Okay. So 2018, Oculus Go was bought. I was like, okay, well, this is a virtual reality headset. Funny enough, I've got like an intuitive feel when it comes to technology that sometimes I can buy something, sell it, and never actually use it myself. So like the very first, exactly. So that's why even the one website is called Flip Phones.
Wow.
So that's probably it. I think that's where the confusion is, to say that there are multiple businesses. It's just like different brands, just within one business.
I see.
And
just being customer centric, offering more solutions than
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how I played around with the Oculus Go. Funny enough, I think I'd not played it with it for like a month or two, but it was selling. It was selling like hotcakes or whatever.
Go off the shelves.
It was like quiet for like 2 months, and then all of a sudden picked up. So I ended up being like, I might as well just try what I'm actually selling, right?
Okay.
And tried it, and I was like mind blown. I can already see as to where things are actually going. That's when I actually bought the Rift. This is the very first consumer-based product that Oculus had actually released for PC VR. So it was the Oculus Rift. It had the sensors on the computer. You had the controllers and the likes. And I was like, oh, this is actually quite interesting. After that, sold that as well. Through the likes of Takealot, through our online store, and then got to playing around with other virtual reality headsets. The HTC Vive, I tried it. I was like, I can see that I was in a lucky place that I didn't get to try it this first compared to what I saw from Oculus, right?
Oh, wow.
And with Oculus, what actually happened is that it was later on, I think it was 2019, that they released the Quest. I had the lucky opportunity, this was late 2018.
Oh, sorry. Can you sound? It's going to be very, very audible.
Not a problem.
It's going to be very audible.
Not a problem.
So sorry. See,
yeah.
if we had a sound guy, he would be picking this up for us.
Yeah, no, but that's the way that things actually go. You have to just adapt with what you've got.
Right.
Yeah, so 2018, started playing around with the Oculus Go, got into the Oculus Rift, then the HTC Vive, and then late 2018, that's when I went to America, to San Francisco. Primarily, it was actually to try and drum up the fact of bringing more of the products into South Africa. Went there, that didn't really work out that well for a variety of reasons. I think Facebook being quite a big company, and I suppose they've got a variety of standards as to how they actually distribute to different regions. But then I played around with the Quest before it actually came out, right? So the very first Quest I played around with it, I was like, wow, this is mind-blowing. Because of the standalone headset, you've got 6 DOF. To keep it in simple terms, 6 DOF just means that you can actually move around with the VR headset. Quite a lot of the ones which are phone-based, you can only stay in one place. You can move your head around.
Just turn left and right.
So that was primarily it. Then 2019 started selling and the likes. Things were going quite well. So it was the Go, the Rift S, if I'm not mistaken, also came out at the same time because it used the same controllers.
Sure.
And that's how things progressed. A variety of 360 cameras came through the stable. And then up until now, obviously 2020 was a disaster. I don't want to explain that, but there was a whole lot of hardware constraints. But
especially
now
we
exactly. But now we have the Oculus Quest 2, and that's been going quite well. In conjunction with Pico, I think Pico got bought by ByteDance, the same company that owns TikTok. So that was also one of the things that was quite interesting. Just trying to get a variety of VR headsets that cater to a large market, and that's pretty much the story of how I actually got into the AR VR space. So we even saw like the HoloLens, the Microsoft HoloLens 2, the RoKits. Those have been items also from China that we've also brought in. Like we actually do distribute through such partners, right? So like Takealot is a big staying platform that we sell, Loot as well, and also Macro, the marketplace that they actually offer.
That's dope. That's really
also a variety of camera stores. Learned quite a lot of things about the import and export business, and that's been the journey of actually getting. Into
I even heard you earlier talking about like foreign markets and making payments to international clients and all of that stuff. So that's been
it's been
quite a journey, right?
Exactly. So dealing with the banks, understanding exchange rates and all this other stuff.
So here's my thing, bro. With the fiat system being so constrained and sort of limiting, right?
Yeah.
There are, you would agree that there are opportunities for, transactional payments to be converted to faster, more efficient payments, just like blockchains. But the issue now with blockchains is that we're in such an early nascent time, like the infancy stage of blockchain and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How soon, or like a time frame, do you feel people will actually be making these payments where you, as a business owner, as someone who's talking to merchants across the globe, how soon do you think you'll get to a point where you'll be using crypto as like a predominant method of payment?
Yeah, I suppose like crypto and all these things will fall into the background. I think it's already starting.
Sure.
It's something that I think slowly but surely will actually happen. So even on our website, we have Coinbase Commerce that actually takes in cryptocurrencies and the likes.
I've never heard of that. Coinbase Commerce.
Yeah.
Coinbase Commerce, guys.
Yeah. So you can actually set up an account. You can add it as a payment method. We use Shopify as our e-commerce platform.
Okay, cool.
And you can actually do transactions through there. As in, funny enough, even with Shopify Plus, which is obviously the higher tier, they've now started getting into NFTs. I think that's using the Polygon network. So you can really see that things are building up.
Sure.
The issue isn't so much the time. There's a whole lot of regulation. That's where I think when you
uncertainty, regulatory uncertainty.
Yeah,
right?
it's primarily like even when we do payments, most of the payments could easily even clear in 1 hour, right? But it's just all the checks and balances along the way. So I think possibly we could talk about smart contracts and the likes, but it's those infrastructures that need to be put in place to make sure that those can be facilitated quite smoothly. It was like you look at Visa. Visa had partnered up with Crypto.com.
Sure.
So when it comes to settlements using USDC, it actually settles it in USDC rather than having to do a conversion into USD. So those are the things which are actually coming about. As to like a full-blown main adoption, maybe 10 years, but it could be sooner.
At the moment, with a huge explosion, rather, with collectibles, digital art, right? What do you think is the biggest obstacle with local continental artists really tapping into this digital economy? What do you think is the barrier? Where are people getting wrong? Is it the education, the lack of education, or the reluctancy? Because the industry is so new, people are thinking it might be a scam, might be legitimate. What, in your opinion, do you think are some of the barriers of entry into NFTs and digital art? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's the tech. I think you've known that there have been quite a lot of artists who've actually had their MetaMask wallets hacked, their funds were drained and the likes.
RIP to those.
I understand. But the thing is that we have to also understand that if it's not an artist, it could be your mother, it could be your father, it could be another relative who isn't so tech savvy and tech conscious about how to actually get about those things. So that's why I think, obviously, even though the platforms such as Coinbase NFTs, the NFT platform that they're about to release, even FTX has their own NFT platform. I love
FTX, man.
Yeah, so those are things where at least, even though it's custodial, that they hold custody for you, it is like a compromise. Right?
Yeah, of course. So some level of centralization. It's like a give and take.
Yeah. So those are the things that I necessarily say. And it's also the people that you have around you, right? So we talk of like Bitcoin, right? I remember when I was telling friends about Bitcoin, most of them were skeptical, right? And
I mean, I was one of those people.
Yeah. So it does actually happen, right? That people are very skeptical about new technology. They're also scared as to how exactly it will actually change the way that they do things. So even for artists and the likes, is that they have to realize that it's not to say that NFTs will take away their other opportunities of making money. It's just another form of making money, right? So the thing is that you're not, I think Vintage brought it up, is to say that you're not an NFT artist. You're an artist that sells NFTs. So that's primarily it. And once you see more of your own kind doing it, I think it does encourage other people to actually go out there and actually do quite a few sales. So there are a few South African NFT artists, and I think you do know about them as well. But it's just those stories which I think resonate and get people to actually understand as to what exactly is happening. But
to raise the interest also.
Exactly. But I just tell you, this technology thing is where there's a bit of a barrier to tell a person, open up a Luno or Vala account, get a MetaMask wallet, send it to an OX address. Now when you've got it there, now connect it to your OpenSea and the likes. And be it that, for instance, if you're in a lucky predicament, that you also list yourself on Foundation as well. So those are things that I think there will be a bit of hand holding. But like with any new technology, be it as like an iPhone or an Android or like a Windows
that's what
machine.
they said, the emails and the internet, the basic internet was frowned upon and demonized to some extent up until they realized that the functionality is bringing so much more potential, bringing so much more growth to other industries. I mean, like, I can just imagine how the entertainment industry alone has been revolutionized just with with the internet, how we share memes, how we share songs, how we share all of this stuff. And now this has been transferred or integrated into value, because now it's the internet of things, the internet of value, how value can move frictionless, how it can move without Nostro accounts or these pre-funded stuff. I think that's where the opportunity lies, you know what I mean? For me, just to give some insight with regards to virtual nation builders, right? We are tapping into the NFT space as well, but what we want to do is not just focus on the art side of things as well. We'd like to actually tokenize real world assets, right? One of our most recent projects is with Black Rock Rhino, which is a conservation sort of organization, and what we did is we tokenized an ethically sourced horn, you know what I mean? And even that brought so much back, even though the intention is good, even though the group and the team behind it is like lawyers and these, all of these institutional structures, there was such a backlash as well. And I think it's also the lack of education, where education is such a big factor. So what do you think we could do to bring use case, to bring utility within the NFT space?
Okay, so when it comes to the arts side of things, I think there doesn't have to be any utility. It might sound controversial, but the mere is that if you create art, I think it's also an analogy. If you see a street artist and they've made a painting and you buy it, are you intending on actually reselling it? Maybe. But the mere is that I think if you're buying stuff that you like, it shouldn't really matter if it's
could just
in
be
value.
Look cool in your wall. Or
Exactly. So those are things that I think people need to understand when it comes to, I think, that utility argument, right?
Sure.
The other part with utility, it could be like ticket stubs and the likes, as in Gary Vee has V-Friends, so you've got exclusive access to him for his events and the likes.
Nice.
So those could actually work out. So if, for instance, maybe you're an artist, you can actually have exclusive events for your top supporters one from another, or maybe being able to give them access. So even like Discovery does that with their Discovery Bank members, or I think Vitality, if I'm not mistaken, that 48 hours before there was a public release of the sale of tickets for Justin Bieber's concert, that those people actually had access. So for myself, I got that same email to say, hey, congrats, you've actually got early access. So that it's not to say I'm against Justin Bieber, but I don't see myself going to one of his concerts, right? So
preference, guys.
Exactly, it's preference. So that's where you can see the utility, and it actually does open a whole lot of doors as to even when you talk of the native certificate that you get for your car. Just that is obviously adoption on a government level, where they obviously have to necessarily look at how they can actually adopt this new technology. So again, it's like some things will be centralized, but we'll have to see as in how things actually go about. Because, like, for instance, it's a piece of paper that says that you've got proven ownership of your car, right?
So
I think quite a few of these things don't need the blockchain, but I think it's good to also explore as in, are there possibilities for things that can be immutable, right? Because, like, even for instance, if you're talking about you've got an NFT for your Airbnb and the likes, maybe it might actually act as a co-op to say that you are in this particular area and one from another. So at least maybe if there's a new event, you could actually get like airdropped event passes and one from another. So there's all this, there's avenues that I think right now, with what I'm even just sharing, is just on what my worldview is of right now. And the next year, we might have a different view of how NFTs will actually look like, right? But I think let's not limit it to say that there's only this particular use case or utility. But let's just see as in what else can actually happen. Because like just recently, so the unreleased Whitney Houston track that just got sold.
I saw that.
Exactly.
Yes.
I don't know if there's any utility, but you've got ownership of it. Exactly.
I mean, another quick example is that Quentin Tarantino. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Correct me in the comment section there. he released so he NFT'd, I think, unseen script or unreleased script, and in unseen scenes, or maybe a montage of unseen sort of segments of the movie. And I'm thinking, yes, this is really where things are going, you know what I mean? Where our day-to-day actions, where institutions are now tapping into on-chain metrics and on-chain information as well. Because now, the big thing is institutional interest as well that we've seen. Right? There's Budweiser, there's Pepsi, there's Nike, and all of these things. Do you feel as though this interest from these big organizations, is it a sell signal? Is it a buy signal? Where are we in the sort of growth trajectory of the entire crypto blockchain market?
Well, I think, again, these old institutions would want to stay relevant. That's the reality, right? So even like with Apple for a very long time has been selling iPhones.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure what the next transition would be. There has been talks about their new AR glasses.
Okay.
Which is still a rumor. I'm not going to buy it up until we actually see something. But you look at what happened with Nike quite recently, so where they acquired an NFT or crypto native company called Artifact, right? So Artifact sells a digital...
Shout out Artifact. Y'all doing some dope shit. Yeah.
So Artifact is an RF...
TK.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
it's here on the screen. Look at the screen.
But those are the things where I think quite a lot of these old companies would want to stay relevant. Even like with Adidas, they partnered with BAYC, the Board Ape Yacht Club. Also with Punks Comics, and also a few other...
I mean, even Universal, sorry bro to interject there. I saw something about Universal potentially making a music group of NFT Bored Ape characters. Think of the gorillas, but as NFT characters. I'm like, oh my god.
True. So there's a variety of people who are actually coming into the space. I know that there was a whole backlash with is it Hype Entertainment, the guys behind BTS in South Korea.
Is it? I don't know about that. What happened
so
there?
the things that there was backlash from the fans. I think quite a lot of them also were just not interested in NFTs. They wanted the physical items, right? And those are the things that you have to realize. I think public sentiment for me, I'm pretty much digital native. I prefer to just have the digital assets.
Online,
so sometimes even with NFT artists, they do have physical prints and the likes. Not to say that I don't want to hold them, but I think if I move, I now have to carry all these physical items. And I think if it's digital, at least I know that, for instance, I don't have to worry about having to physically carry physical goods. As an idea, even with my books and the likes, that I still have quite a lot of books. Some of them are actually autographed and the likes.
Nice.
There's that feeling of actually holding a book and the likes. But when I've gone on holiday, even when I went to the Maldives, I carried a few books and I was like, I can understand why I still carry a Kindle. Where, for instance, I want to flip through different books, guys, but I don't want to do it with the fact of having to carry a whole library.
Again, convenience. Right?
Exactly.
It's really convenience more than anything.
Yeah, so with quite a lot of these guys, even with the gaming industry and the likes, I think Ubisoft tried to...
Yes, with the in-game NFTs.
Yeah, but then they actually got a whole lot of backlash, and that's the same thing. Discord as well, I'm not too sure if we'd say it's a big company or whatever, they also got backlash. So the thing that's where you'll see that these paradigm shifts, I'm not too sure what would effectively work going forward, and especially, for instance, like with COVID. Crypto and the likes was probably a way that people could actually stay at home and interact digitally, and actually being able to show that ownership from one from another. So rather than actually just collecting a whole lot of likes, wouldn't it be great that you can actually collect money for what you actually put out?
Of course. I mean, now what blockchain is introducing also is like the play to earn initiatives, you know what I mean, where I made an example to a friend because now I'm getting a lot of calls from friends, family. They see from a distance, crypto's legitimizing.
True.
You know what I mean? Elon Musk is tweeting, and they're like, hey, Moose, so what's Bitcoin? How's da-da-da? And I'm like, guys, should I be worried now? Because now what people are going to do is push for like instant gratification, right? A lot of people have been burned. There's so many bad actors in this space, you know what I mean, who are taking advantage of people unfamiliar with this technology. So what would you say to someone who saw Daliso receive like I can't remember the project that you said airdropped you like some free.
I think it was Punk's comic.
You know what I'm saying?
Comic, with the meta heroes and the universe that they're building there, and obviously that was an airdrop.
Exactly. So someone would look at that at a distance and be like, that's money. That's the new money, open source computer code, right? I want that. And what they do is they just sign up and go into these unregulated and untrustworthy platforms where they get played. What advice would you give to someone, a new guy with some liquidity, some money, and wants to get exposure into the industry?
So we're talking about people trying to buy into the space with liquidity and the likes. There's two ways to go about it. The first way is obviously just jumping head right into the space and probably spending money and seeing as to how things go, and probably looking at a variety of projects. Recommendation would be that you just follow people within the space. You'll most likely be able to see what exactly is happening. The nice thing with the blockchain, it might be something that people don't like, is that addresses are public, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you can like look at a person
shared in a
like
distributed fashion.
exactly. You look at like Mark Cuban. You're interested in what he actually does. Of course, he probably
You
does.
can follow that wallet, yeah.
Exactly. He maybe makes big money moves, so it doesn't really make much
He's a
sense for
whale,
you to.
hey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you just see as to what exactly is playing out there. The other approach would be that you do a bit of research.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with getting yourself prepared, because I think with crypto compared to your traditional finance systems, is that even then there is social engineering that can actually happen. That if, for instance, I lose the password to my bank account, I can probably call the bank and often tell them, hey, can you actually reset it? With crypto, you give away your seed phrase. Your seed phrase is like full access. Even if you try to like delete your MetaMask and create another one and import the same seed phrase, your funds are actually gone. So those are obviously just the security aspects of if you do have that liquidity. And more often than not, if you just jump into spaces, Twitter spaces that I'm actually referring to.
It's so insightful.
Yeah.
Eh? I mean, I've learned so much from your Sunday sessions, and for the fact that you have another thing, right? This guy, I don't know where the hell you got your network, but there's such a wide variety of really fucking smart, brilliant, talented artists across the globe. Do they come to you?
Yep.
Do you spend hours on end looking for them? Is it an organic thing? Walk us through. How the hell do you find these people, bro? Because I mean, there's Abby.
Yep.
I'm just gonna name drop Mandem, Foom.
Yeah.
You could help with the. I know you speak to them a lot of the times.
Right now it's like even Nigeria as well.
Yeah.
Even was a Kiel. Of course, some of them are gonna be upset.
That you don't mention,
CJ as well.
Yeah,
so,
Letabo.
Yeah, Letabo.
There's so many of. There's so many. There's too many. There's too many of y'all to mention. Don't block me or cancel Daliso for not mentioning your name. Okay.
Yeah. No, but the thing is that I think it happened organically, right? I just had a natural interest. So that's why even if we were to jump into I got into the NFT space, that initially just started off as like, this is a silly idea. So I'm buying a digital signature.
money.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm buying a digital signature on the blockchain that proves ownership of whatever it is. And obviously, I think ownership is a different discussion altogether.
Yeah.
But I just got, exactly.
Yeah.
But I got into it, and that's how I actually found out about like the African NFT Club. Sat through their clubhouse rooms. Went on to obviously Twitter Spaces. And just actively just looked for more Africans and more black people, right?
There you go. More women.
Yeah, and more women. So that was primarily it. Again, is that maybe the voice actually does help in attracting people, but even prior to my spaces, it was just more of a case of just trying to find out what exactly is happening within the space, right? And it's always just good to actually try and get community closer to you. Because even with the spaces, I think what's appreciated is that it's in a common time zone. Quite a lot of people, if it's like an American space, it's like quite late at times or quite early. And also, like for instance, the guys in Asia, it's a different demographic. And more often than not, you also just don't hear people who sound like you. Nothing wrong to be amongst a whole lot of people who are international.
Real talk.
But I think sometimes you also want to be with people who can relate to the issues that you actually have, right? And yeah, it was primarily, I think, just following people. Sometimes people would actually even like give you reference to say, hey, have you looked at this person in one form or another? And that's how it's actually accumulated in a sense. So it's not been like that hard for me to actually find these same artists. That's why I think it's always odd when people say, where the females within the NFT space, or where the black people within the NFT space and the likes. And sometimes some of these people are within their own silos in terms of the art that they actually collect. And I have no real issues with that. But I think once you actually become friends with people within different class
circles
groupings, and also circles, as you've already stated, that you necessarily get an idea as to, there's something outside of what I've typically been accustomed to. So I suppose even with technology solutions, right? One of the cameras that we had, I remember, was overheating. But that was on the basis that it wasn't tested in Africa, right? So
because of the heat conditions here.
Exactly. And those are the things that only just get given as feedback once there are people outside of the usual norm. We can actually provide that to like suppliers and the likes. So even like with the people you talk of, how did I get to know all of these same people? Partly it was also because I also bought quite a lot of art. So that also got you to be known to say, well, it seems like Daliso is also a tastemaker, right? And the thing is that even with most of the arts, I tell artists, if I don't like your art, I don't like your art. Not to say that I don't sometimes buy art because, hey, you are a friend of one from another. But the majority of the times, if a person were to look at my wallet and my collection, it's primarily been art pieces that I'm like, that actually resonates.
Sure.
I can actually buy into whatever you're actually putting out there.
Nice. No, that's so cool. Because, I mean, there's such a big Cambrian explosion, right? It's an explosion in art, it's an explosion in tech, an explosion in culture, you know what I mean? It's like a melting pot of all of these things. I sort of have an issue with looking at NFTs alongside the crypto market, because with the crypto market, then you can kind of anticipate bear markets, you know. Is it a thing also with NFTs, or is it like is it seasonal? You know?
Yeah, it seems okay. So obviously with the collectibles, it's seasonal. It has happened where, for instance, sometimes you'll see that it shoots to a high and often it shoots to a low.
Sure.
But it seems like the NFT space overall, apart from obviously the trolls that have come from like crypto Twitter, as in anybody who doesn't know crypto Twitter, it's like, those are the guys who are like your true degens and the likes. It's not to say that you don't have degens in NFTs.
Bitcoin maxis.
So that's the thing that you see. That when I joined into the space, I think that was around February or so, and obviously I didn't pay much attention to it. In the normal crypto space, quite a lot of it being DeFi tokens and the likes, that's when it's like, oh, okay, fine, things are all good. It was only up until like around May when all of a sudden, oh no, things are crashing and stuff like that. Get into the NFT space, like everybody's like, wow, everything's amazing and stuff like that. So like right now, I can't necessarily point to the fact of when a bear market would actually happen. But we look at things like CryptoPunks, and I think we need to be cautious. Is that last year they were probably just like single digits ETH when it came to purchasing one, and now they're double digits, right? Pretty much still above, I think, 50 ETH when it comes to the floor price. So floor price obviously being the cheapest one that you can actually buy within a collection. And I think if you're creating, and the one thing that people also have to realize when it comes to how you live your life, especially when it comes to wanting to make money, is don't hedge your bets on just one particular sector. Try and do things outside of it.
Diversify.
And that's why sometimes I've seen, and I'm not one for emotional manipulation, right? Because I've also gone through tough times in my life, but I don't necessarily go on the timeline saying A, B, C, and D.
Sure.
And
broadcast the issues,
exactly. And there have been some NFT artists who've actually tried to play that same, oh no, but my mother is in this state, yada yada. And I'm like, I don't even know you.
Bro.
So things that, as far as it goes, is not to say I don't believe your story, but those are things which I think people have to take into consideration. That I, like when I was in university, I found ways to actually make cash, right? I was buying items, selling them here in South Africa, right? Even when it came to
so
me
the
working,
flipping has been happening,
it's
not a new thing.
It's been happening. As in even in high school, it was also the same case. You wanted to make extra money. That's why, for instance, I think it was it the Google Daydream? No, not Daydream. I'm now talking about VR. It was the second Google phone that got released. It was we're getting outside.
We got Lwazi there. We got Lwazi. Someone look at Lwazi. You must capture Lwazi. So he's here, also here. This guy there is making the sounds there.
So I've forgotten which one it was, but I brought it in. I never actually played around with the phone. That was a funny thing. So it was primarily also just like trying to make cash, and it was primarily also funding my computer building habit that I had.
There we go.
So that's why I'm just saying that you always also want to look at different avenues to make cash. And ideally, so if for instance NFTs can be your main gig, fine, so be it. But don't necessarily want to hedge everything on just that one thing. So even with what we're doing, is that we're selling 360 cameras, we're selling hardware. Obviously, I've got a background in software engineering, and that was one of the things that I wanted to put out for like the next year. Not a lot of people like hardware, but the mere fact that I felt the pain last year, where for instance you had to find different ways to make sure that you could keep the company sustainable
during that tough economic shitstorm.
Exactly. So to keep it very short, it's like NFTs, there will always be ups and downs depending on how you go about things. But I think if, for instance, crypto prices like, let's just say ETH, Ether, which is predominantly what's used for most NFTs, if the price goes down, you'd probably think that the ETH number would actually go up with NFTs. And if the price of ETH goes up, then obviously you'd expect the reverse. Not to say that they are correlated, but I think it would be an assumption to say that, hey, if people are still looking at things in dollar terms, they would probably still want to keep a peg at that dollar value in a sense.
That is actually so dope, because I mean, another thing, guys, maybe it's very apparent to me now, right? I'm seeing the success, and again, bro, we need to celebrate all wins, big wins, small wins, but I celebrate black wins, right?
Yeah.
And you being in the space, you being such a force, right? Uplifting people, not just by buying their art, but by capacitating them with insight, knowledge, and information. That's really crucial, bro. You know what I mean? Because someone in your position could easily ask people for their seed phrases. Easily. You know what I mean? Manipulate and stuff like that. I mean, I've been burnt in the blockchain crypto space when I first started, right? But I didn't have or maybe I wasn't aware of the channels, you know what I mean? Maybe you were tweeting still, I just wasn't aware of those things, you know what I mean? So thank you so much for what you're doing, my brother. I know more than myself, people out there, not even just on the continent, bro. I'm sure there's someone in LA, in San Francisco, in Thailand, Maldives, wanting to know, wanting to tap in without, you know, a sort of like, you know, entry point. And I feel like this conversation, even, you know, this platform, your platform in the space is a really good way to, you know, to open it up. And what I love about it again is that the efficiency or the I don't know, I'll call it strategic foresight you have to be able to flip a piece, to be able to find, you know, that project, NFT project, that's something you've done, like you said, from high school already. You know what I mean? It's been a personality trait that you've harnessed over the years. And I think what people should focus on is doing that, right? Focusing on what they're really good at, right? Focusing on what they're passionate about. Because tomorrow, when the NFT market dips, when the DeFi project that you invested in crashes, whatever, it's going to be easy for you to get it like, it's a scam. I don't want it. I don't believe in it anymore. But if you just stay true to it, be in it for the tech, right? And then you hodl, usually 9 times out of 10, you come out on the top, right? One other thing I'd like to ask is that, is there anything you could give sort of more insight to people on finding like a crypto punk project or an Afro droid, you know what I mean, which is a really phenomenal project as well. Please guys, support, is it Owo? Support Owo, doing some dope shit. How do you find that such projects while they sort of creeping out, you know what I mean, before, you know, they go mainstream type thing?
Sometimes you have to have some sort of conviction that you don't know what will happen with the project, because again is that it's quite easy when a project is blowing up that it sells out quite quickly, right? And it's a different story when sometimes you buy into a project but it doesn't sell out as quickly as you expect it to sell, right? So I've probably gotten quite a lot of duds, right, in terms of the projects that I've actually bought into. But I think it's also just people, the networks that you actually carry, and also jumping into a variety of Twitter spaces. So I know it might be tongue-in-cheek, but I do quite a lot of TA, right?
Oh, is it?
No,
some technical analysis?
Not technical analysis, timeline analysis.
Ooh, say that again for the people at home.
Yeah, timeline analysis. So funny enough, that was a line that I've now hijacked from Grid Cult.
Is it?
So
Shout out.
So he necessarily used that tweet. I was like, that's kind of funny because I actually do the same thing. That I necessarily just look at what happens on the timeline. And that already gives me a good feel as to if the project is good or not. Sometimes I've been right, sometimes I've been wrong. But more often than not, when you buy into the stuff that you like, it's not to say that that's the best way to actually invest in things. It's the same thing. You can't just be buying into Apple because you like the company. If you want to make money, you typically have to like analyze the company and see if it's actually going to make a whole lot of sense, right? But on my side, I think with the NFTs, it does play a bit with meme culture. So you can necessarily see as to the proliferation of memes that you can actually get an idea as to, what is the zeitgeist at the time, and if it will actually make money or not. But I think also the thing about me has been that there has been quite a bit of luck as well. So sometimes you also have to set your targets.
Take risk.
Exactly. But I wouldn't necessarily, again, say that what I do is what everybody should actually do.
Work for someone else.
But for instance, most of the projects that I bought into, initially my thesis was to say, if it's 10x, I'll actually exit my position, right? Then all of a sudden you saw that it was more than 10x, and then you're like, now you have to adjust your thesis.
Yes, maybe sell a portion at a time.
Exactly, but it's not to say that should always apply across the board. I think one also has to figure out what is their strategy of wanting to exit. Sometimes, like with the NFT flippers, they typically flip for like twice the value and one from another. But don't be surprised if all of a sudden you lose 90% of the value of what you've actually bought into.
Sure.
And that's just the way that the game plays. So that's why I think the other piece of advice when it comes to looking for these projects, and I can't necessarily say that there's a guaranteed way to look for these projects, right? If you look at my wallet, it might look very different from another person's wallet, right? And people might be wondering, so what is Daliso's tactic and how he actually buys these NFTs? Is this more of a case of, I'm like, it looks dope, I'm surprised nobody's actually bought it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden when I buy it, and then
it's
sometimes,
like, oh.
yeah, so then it's like Daliso was able to tell the future. I'm like, no, it's like I just bought it because I thought that it looked dope. And like even I think with Lana, right? With
shout out Lana.
Yeah, with the Mona Lanas, right? Is that I was probably maybe her second collector when it came to NFTs. When she was new in the space, and I loved it. As in, she actually opened up a whole chat. We had a whole discussion, and I bought the piece. And she actually sold it because I think that was on Known Origin, if I'm not mistaken. But I might be mistaken because there's so many of these same platforms. But it was just a simple chat. Got to know her, and then obviously again engaging with people on the timeline, and you get to know more of these same people. So when she actually had the Mona Lana project come out, she actually sent me a DM to say, hey, how many do you want to buy? And I think I said, it's like I put myself down for 9, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I was able to get it pre to the fact of everybody getting it on the market. And even then, I think the floor price, I don't know. It's like what 0.2. I don't care. I just like the art. So the things that I'm not necessarily looking for me to actually just quickly sell the pieces. Some of the pieces could also act as gifts. And that's the nice thing that I've actually liked about the Afro Droids, is that I've been able to actually teach people within the NFT space about NFTs by just being able to show them, like, hey, here's an NFT. So some NFTs have actually blown up in value. Others have actually like shot down in value. But I'm like, I'm not a fortune teller to tell you which NFT that I give you is actually going to go up. As in those like the Untamed Elephants, that was one project that I got into. I remember they airdropped us like double the amount that we minted. I was like, what? Okay, if I've gotten an airdrop, I might as well just share this with friends. And that was also just a way to actually get people to be like, oh yeah, this is what an NFT is. It's in my wallet. It's like I can do A, B, C, and D. So those are probably just the tips on how to actually even just look for any of these same projects. And
before
I think once, but that's the thing, as in sometimes I remember James Altucher, as in he's obviously been a controversial figure, especially when it came to like the bull market in 2017 with his ads and the likes. But it was simple advice, like associate yourself with people smarter than yourself. If they're buying into some things, not to say that it's the best advice, but sometimes you just buy into what they're all buying into.
I can agree to that, bro. Because my thing is, if you chill with 9 drug dealers, you'll be the 10th one. If you chill with 11 intelligent people, you'll be the 12th one. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much very true to what you're saying. But again, bro, I mean, with again the proliferation of digital assets moving into this cashless society and this shift into like virtual, so sort of reality, virtual engagement, bro, where do you see NFTs in a decade? No, 5 years. That's a decade is too long.
Yeah, true.
5 years.
Honestly speaking, I don't know.
Where's your fortune, boy? I thought you...
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is that as much as I'd love to say that, hey, this is what's going to happen with NFTs in the next 5 years, right? A variety of things could actually change. Maybe the way that we even send them back and forth. Right now, most of the NFTs are running on L1.
Layer 1 solutions.
And obviously you've got like side chains and the likes, and now things are actually becoming a bit more cross.
Roll-ups, all of this stuff.
So you're seeing a whole lot of like cross-chain activity that's also recently happening. Like even Rarible has now integrated.
That's amazing. Interoperability is such a crucial thing because I mean, for me, I feel like interoperability is gonna, number one, reduce the complexity of the user experience, because some people are too intimidated. Seed phrase, MetaMask, you know what I mean? But now if you can make that experience simple, if you can make it as easy as sending an SMS, because I keep saying, if I were to send you an email, bro, I don't have to ask you, are you Gmail? Yahoo. If I send you an SMS, it's not empty, are you Vodacom? It's just, you know what I mean? But with money, I kind of have to ask you, are you Telkom? Are you, Capitec? Are you ABSA? Are you what? So the interoperability function is really going to onboard so many more people, and that's why I actually love NFTs in the art space, NFTs in the cultural space, the heritage space, the conservation space, because it now brings in more people and audiences who wouldn't have necessarily tapped into it, right? Like shout out Major League, right? They had the Mapiano drop as well. And that's such a phenomenal opportunity to bring like the Mapiano wave and culture into blockchain and NFTs, because not only is there so much talent, but it's also a nice way to to help bring art and web monetization, right?
Yeah, next 5 years, like I said, I can't really tell the future, but I think it's just making things easier, cheaper, more seamless. I think like how you use an iPhone, some people complain about, but iPhones are useless and stuff like that, but to a large degree there's that simplicity. It just works to a large extent. So the thing is that I would hope the same thing would actually happen when it comes to the NFT market. If there would be a crossover when it comes to government organizations, like El Salvador has already adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender. So the mere fact is that if you want to pay for things, you can actually pay for them in Bitcoin. There wouldn't be like a conversion charge. It's just that they purely would be accepting it, right?
Incredible.
So those are things that when we look at even NFTs, it's a brand new world. At this current moment in time, like I said, is that I do it mainly part-time. So it's not like a full-time gig. I wouldn't advocate for people to just like jump in full-time. So the thing is that if you've already got something going on the side, it does help that you are less under pressure to like get things just to work.
It's just an additional,
revenue
avenue.
Stream, yeah,
there we go.
And also I think, this new way of technology. So again, is that Gary Vaynerchuk, as in he's been quite influential in being able to be like the first in quite a lot of these things. So like even with social media, he was probably one of the first people to actually say, it's like, hey, guys, you should be jumping onto this. With NFTs, you can actually see it as another social aspect, right? That you can see each other's wallets, see as to like what pieces of art or collectibles that you've actually got. You could probably be trading them, and those are things that we'll have to see in the future. But yeah, it's a brave new world, as in it's the same thing with VR. Did I know that would be so far ahead when it comes to virtual reality, where now things are just seamless and they're so light? Even HTC has released a new headset, which is quite thin. I haven't tried it myself, but those are the things that, for instance, even virtual reality is an avenue for like fitness training and likes, right? So we look at NFTs. Hopefully we see a similar evolution, because things are quite clunky, to be quite frank. As in, I think when we're going about things, they are still quite clunky. It's not to say that I am against us using these clunky methods, but I think like for your normal user or average user, right? Sometimes they don't want to jump through so many hoops. Even like when it comes to passwords, the truth is that most people use the same password across a whole lot of services. So for them to be taught about being security conscious, that's a different story that we have to see as to how things play out. Because again, scams happen across any sort of platform. It can be like true. So that's why I'm just thinking that, hey, we should all be trying to encourage as to like best hygiene practices when it comes to security.
There we go.
But also, for instance, even if you're an artist, like what are the best ways to actually start in one from another? And I think if we are involved as creators and as collectors, I think we can also shape as to the decisions that different entities are able to do, and even for ourselves to even start our own sort of solutions, right? Because again, is that quite a lot of the tech companies came from America. But right now with the whole idea of like DAOs,
the democratization of information and all of that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that we can actually have a decentralized autonomous organization that people can actually interact with each other from across the world to try and make decisions.
A trustless governance model.
Damn, so even then, as in there are already debates as to how exactly is it one member, one vote, but then again it's like one wallet, one vote. Those are things that you have to deal with. How many tokens a person can hold, as in is it a situation that the one who has the most amount of wealth is the one who actually makes the decisions. So the thing is that we're all trying to figure out new ways of going about things, but there's that old saying from Ecclesiastes, nothing is new under the sun. So quite a lot of the things that possibly we could have actually been doing in the past, almost like you see it being introduced into crypto, and it wouldn't seem like anything new, but I think probably just a new introduction as to how it's actually brought about.
Damn. Alright guys, I don't know if you understand, right? Let me make it clear. We're in the precipice of the next gen financial system, right? No one is going to come and save you. No one is going to come and tell you about this. It's time to take initiative. It's time to, follow the steps of Daliso, right? I mean, be self-sufficient in like learn about these things, right? Get skin in the game. But again, it's not as easy, right? But it is very possible. So I would like to thank Daliso, because if we don't stop this now, I think we're gonna lose voices talking here, right? Because there's so much to tap into. And again, maybe you guys can also tell us, right? We can invite him again, on the show. I mean, I'm sure there's some value that you find in this conversation. I know I did. I mean, there's so much I learned, engaging with the man. I'm hoping you guys feel the same way. So without further ado, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Daliso, for all the work you do, bro. Really appreciate it. By the way, you have the same phone. I bought it first. He's copying me. So again, tune in to In It For The Tick. Subscribe. What do they say? Subscribe.
Leave a comment below.
Leave a comment. Man, he's done it before, this guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, shout out, guys. Thank you so much.
All right.
Peace.
Black excellence like Rico. Keep the strap real tight on us. We ain't got charges on the Rico. All my niggas really got on them. We don't like talk different people. Y'all already know the song is the bomb, but I already brought the sun.